Hello, in this video we're looking at issue 28 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine. We're going to be learning some new rules for terrain and to add some more Necron Warriors to our Necron forces. Hello, I'm Mike, and this is Will. We are the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And we're bringing issue 28 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine today. And in this issue, we got the first half of a set of Necron Warriors. This is identical to the previous set we got in issue 9 and 10, I believe. If you want to skip straight to the battle, there'll be a time code in the description, or you can use the chapter bars. But we'll have a brief look through the issue first. First up, we have our battle record for our new squad of Necron Warriors. So they are otherwise identical to the other unit, but here they have their own unique battle record, and it talks about how they are mindless automatons. And like the other phalanx, you can give them their own unique glyph and battle record and so on. A little bit here where it talks about how planets turn out to be Necron tombs and sort of how the process of a tomb awakening occurs. So there's sort of a formless rumbling, and then the planet's crust starts breaking apart, and then swarms of scarabs and Canoptek transports take to the surface to kill any of the inhabitants. And a little bit here about Blackstone, which resonates with the energies of the warp when properly polarised. The Necrons are capable of shaping it, so it's not really known to the Imperium, but is obviously something they want to get hold of. And then more background on the Skitarii, so they are forged cybernetic soldiers who are sort of created by their tech priest overlords, and they share information and tactical data between themselves, obviously with their cybernetic enhancements. And how even if a Skitarii falls in battle, they still require knowledge about the Imperium's foes in doing so. And then goes over some of their equipment, the arc rifle, the galvanic rifle, and the transuranic arquebus. And then the build guide for the Necron Warriors and the Scarab Swarms obviously is like exactly the same as the other squad we got. And it does tell you to make 5 with the Flayers and 5 with the Reapers. So you can see the finished models there. And the painting guide is actually in the next issue, where we get the remaining half of the sprues. So that over, we have a fair few new rules to go through, so I'll hand you over to Will.
Shortly we'll be on to our game, but first we've got more coverage of the core rules, and again this is mostly going over things we already know. Unit coherency, we know how all that works, it's just a formal definition. There is a sidebar here though which mentions the most important rule, as it says, which is that in a complicated game like Warhammer 40,000 sometimes things happen that you're not entirely sure how they are, and it just says that a good idea is to discuss with your opponent exactly what might happen and present what seems like the most sensible solution or seems the most fun, which is a good attitude to have. It also mentions engagement range, we know what that is. And then it starts to talk about the battlefield and terrain features. We're going to learn more about that in just a second. We've got a bit about measuring distances. The only thing to note is if a model doesn't have a base, you measure to the closest point of its hull, which is any part of the model. And there's also a bit about wobbling models, which is about placing models in a place where they would fit, but it's a bit dangerous to place them there in case they might fall over, so you can just agree to move them somewhere else, as long as you remember where they were. And a definition of within and wholly within. Wholly within means that every part of the model is within that distance, whereas within is just any part. And now we're on to a fairly lengthy section about terrain features. I won't go over this in every detail because there's an awful lot of text, but broadly speaking, terrain comes in 4 categories. We've got hills, which are raised areas, they don't have any additional rules. Obstacles, which have a rule that provides the benefits of cover. That's a phrase that you'll see a few times. If an infantry beast or swarm model is within 3 inches of it and its entire base is not visible to the attacking model. This is something that's best shown in practice, so we will do that when we play a game, and we'll learn about what the benefits of cover entail in a minute. Area terrain is a piece of terrain with a defined footprint, and you gain the benefits of cover for being within that footprint. And only infantry, beasts and swarms benefit from that, as it says over the page. And finally, buildings, which are actually almost like a kind of unit. They have their own data sheet, and quite often they can be destroyed. I don't think we get any buildings with the magazine, so that's not really that important right now. And there's also terrain traits, which are special rules that different pieces of terrain have and help you categorise exactly what it is. Again, I won't go over these in detail because there's an awful lot here. I'll come back to the ones that we're going to need for this game in a minute. So we'll just skip ahead to the Imperium terrain, which is the terrain we've got so far and will receive in the next 12 or 13 issues or so. So there's a picture of some of them there, and you can see the traits that they have. In this game we'll need the armoured containers, and you can see they're in the category of obstacles, and the terrain traits they have are light, cover, scalable and exposed position. All of those traits are detailed on this page. Light cover means that while you're benefiting from cover from that terrain piece, you get +1 to your saving throws. And remember, for obstacles, benefiting from cover means within 3 inches of it and at least part of your base is obscured from the point of view of the attacking model. Invulnerable saving throws are unaffected. Exposed position there on the left means that you don't get benefits of cover while on top of it, so if you're standing on top of the container you don't get that benefit, only if you're behind it effectively. And finally, scalable means that only infantry, beasts and swarm models, and models that can fly, can be set up or end and move on top of the obstacles. We don't have any models that don't fit those definitions in this game, but conceivably in the future that certain things won't be able to go on top of the containers. And it also has extra rules if it's an area terrain feature, and it has floors and ceilings. That doesn't apply to these containers. So that's all we'll cover for now. When we get other terrain features and their rules, we will go through the rules for them, just in the interest of keeping this video as short as possible. Although on the back we do have a bit more terrain, and there's rules for the barrels and crates and the hemotrope reactors, which we do have, but again we'll go over those when they turn up in a scenario. And then we have the background for our game, Counter-Strike. It notes that the Imperial forces are outnumbered and outgunned by the Necrons, and so supply deposits and ammunition dumps are vitally important in the war effort, and they must hold the line until reinforcements can arrive from other parts of the system. With that in mind, the Space Marines have been tasked with launching a counterattack to secure a weapon cache. So leading the assault on the cache is a Primaris Lieutenant. It notes that the captain is still engaged on Megaria. The Necrons aren't interested in the supplies, but they do recognise that they are of use to the Imperials, and so the Necron Overlord is going to try and deny them to the Imperium. So we have the next mission in our Scout Mission Pack, Supply Cache Assault. You'll see from the forces in play that we can't actually physically do this game with the models we have up to this point, because it says you should use 2 units of 10 Necron Warriors. And unfortunately we only got the first sprue of the new Necron Warriors with this issue, but we will play it as written here because we do have the extra 10 Necron Warriors all built and painted up. If you're a subscriber to this, you would have actually received issue 29 at the same time, so you would be able to do this. And even if not, you could just wait until you get the next issue in order to be able to play this mission, so it's not really a big deal. And facing them from the Ultramarines there will be the Primaris Lieutenant, who's leading 5 Assault Intercessors and 3 Aggressors. Our battlefield is set up like this. We have 3-inch deployment zones on the short edges. We've got our 3 Munitorum armoured containers, 1 right in the centre, and the other 2 placed 3 inches away from the respective deployment zones, and 3 objectives on the middle of the top of each container, as you see there. And for our mission objectives, we have a progressive objective securing the ammunition. So at the end of each player's turn, the player whose turn it is scores a victory point for each objective they control, but that player also scores an additional victory point if they control more objectives than their opponent. And the game lasts for 5 battle rounds, and whoever has the most victory points is the winner. So, nice simple mission with a few extra terrain rules. So we'll get the board set up and then get straight into it. We've set up the board. You can see the 3 containers in the middle with their objectives on top of them, and the deployment is done. Space Marines had to deploy a unit first, so let's show them first.
Yeah, so I've got the Assault Intercessor Squad at the top and the Aggressor Squad just below them, and then the Lieutenant behind, so you can benefit from his aura.
Yeah, and it's also worth mentioning that the objective is slightly more than 3 inches from the deployment zone, so nobody controls an objective at the beginning. And over on the Necron end, we've got 2 units of Necron Warriors either side and the Overlord in the middle. And I have deployed the Necron Warriors in the units as they come, so we've got 2 mixed units with 5 of each weapon. Wouldn't necessarily always do that, but in this game I think it will be suitable. Once again, it doesn't tell us who goes first, so we need to roll off. I've got the black dice, and the Space Marines have won.
I'm going to choose to go first, I think.
So we'll be on to Space Marines turn 1.
So I think all my units are going to advance, because if they move up normally, I might be able to get some of the Assault Intercessors in range, but a few pistol shots are worth less than 3 victory points, so I'm going to advance. After my advance files, the Assault Intercessor's only got 1, so it only gets them partially around the box. Aggressor's got 6 and the Lieutenant got a 4, which allows them to get them in amongst the boxes. But essentially, this Aggressor is in range of this objective, and then the Lieutenant is in range of the other objective. So I'll take the objectives 2 and 3. And no shooting, because only the Aggressors could shoot and they're miles out of range, so straight to the end of my turn.
And the Space Marines score 3 victory points for holding 2 objectives and more than the Necrons as well. So 3 victory points to 0 as we're going to Necrons turn 1. In my command phase, I actually have something to do, which is the Overlord's My Will Be Done ability, which will put on the bottom unit of warriors down here, giving them +1 to hit for the rest of the turn. And then in the movement phase, the unit of Necrons at the top of the picture will advance, because they haven't got very much to shoot at, and the unit at the bottom will probably move normally. And remembering that they both get +1 to move because of the Overlord's Relentless March ability as well. So the unit of Necron Warriors that advance actually roll a 6, and thanks to the Overlord giving them +1 movement, they can go a full 12 inches, getting 6 models within range of objective 2. The Overlord also advanced and came up behind them, and the other squad that moved normally are just down here at the bottom like this. So then we're on to the shooting phase. We'll start with the squad that moved normally, firing everything at the aggressors. And thanks to our new obstacles terrain rules, these 2 Necrons here, who are by the black box, from their point of view, This aggressor here is in cover, or receives the benefits of cover, because they can't draw a clear line to every part of his base. Every other Necron can see the whole of his base, but this aggressor, and therefore the sergeant behind him, will also receive the benefits of cover from the box, because they're all within 3 inches of the obstacle, and you can't draw a line of sight to the whole of his base. That's how that works. So we'll start the shooting with the Gauss Reapers. I'll use 2 red dice for the Necron for whom the one aggressor receives cover. So he missed once and another miss, means we've got 8 hits overall. Nope, sorry, that was actually 9 hits, because a 2 is a hit, because I have my will be done on them. And wounding on 4s, again the red dice is that one Necron. Well, he wounded. Wow, okay, we've got 8 wounds. Just because of the situation, we do have to technically fall back on allocating wounds one at a time, since one model will gain cover from a certain shot.
I'm going to put wounds on this guy, and I'm going to do 3 wounds at a time. So he has a 4+ save.
Yeah, -2 AP, but +1 for the benefits of light cover.
So 4s. He's got 1 wound left, so I'll do these one at a time. He's still alive. He's still alive. He's still alive. He's still alive.
And the red one.
He survived.
Wow, okay. So that aggressor is down to 1 wound. And then 10 shots from Gauss Flayers. Again, hitting on 2s, we will have the same procedure where the one with the red dice is the one from cover. So he hits twice, and there's a lot of 1s though, so it's only 7 hits overall. Wounding on 5s. Nothing at all. We did the proper procedure just to demonstrate how it works. In practice, you might just not worry too much about that and just say that certain models have cover. Anyway, on to the other unit, Necron Warriors. Because they advanced, only the assault weapon Gauss Reapers can shoot. They'll shoot at the assault intercessors, none of whom are in cover from their point of view. Hitting on 4s because they advanced. Still 7 hits. And wounding on 3s because they're strength 5. 2.
2 5+ saves from the assault intercessors. Well, I made 1. Only 1 takes a wound. Now we'll put it on this chap.
Well, that's it for my shooting, and there's no charges. But then at the end of my turn, I control objectives 1 and 2, and I also control more than the Space Marines now, so I also get 3 victory points. So the score is 3 victory points apiece, as we head into Space Marines turn 2.
So in my movement phase, assault intercessors and aggressors have moved forwards so that we can be as close as we can to this Necron unit in the middle. And the lieutenant's moved outwards, so he's still holding objective 3, but it lets him project his aura as far as possible towards the front lines. I'll do the lieutenant first because he can only see this Necron on the end and want to try and maximise my shooting, so he'll just shoot his pistol. 2 shots hitting on 2s, don't know why I rolled a red dice, but he hit. And wounding on a 3, it does not. So I'll do the aggressors next, and they can all see a member of this unit, so they'll all fire their Flamestorm gauntlets at them.
But the wounded man can see all of the Necrons, and none of them get cover from him, whereas the other 2, I think most of the Necrons will get cover from them.
Yeah, so we'll have to resolve them separately, I suppose. So we have 66 shots, or automatic hits. The red dice represent the guy who we won't get any, the Necrons won't get any cover from. And he gets 11 hits. The other 2 aren't pulling their weight. They get 11 between them. I'll resolve the non-cover hits first. So 11 hits, wounding on 4s, rerolling 1s because of the lieutenant. Reroll those 2 1s. So 8 wounds.
So 4+ saves because nobody gets cover from this guy. Failed 4. I'll take away 2 from the far end over here, and then another 2 from here.
Other 11 shots, also wounding on 4s, rolling 1s. Reroll the 1. Well, that was a wound. It's only 5 wounds this time.
And technically I'd have to allocate these one at a time, but I'll just do it and assume I'd put them on people in cover. So 3+ saves because I get +1. That did help for 1, so we only lose 2 more. And that'll be these 2 on this end. Then we get to do reanimation. On 5s, rerolling 1s. 2 so far, 3. And we'll bring back 3 Gauss Flayers, and all of them are now in position to be on the objective. And one of them is even on top of the box, where he is in coherency, so that's perfectly legal.
So I'll do the assault intercessors next. 1 guy at the back will throw a frag grenade, and then we'll have 3 heavy bolt pistols, and then the plasma pistol, which I'm not going to supercharge. So we'll do the frag grenade first. It's D6 shots. The minimum will be 3 because there's 7 members of the unit. Maximum number of potential shots, which hit on 3s. 4 hits. Wounding on 5s, you're rolling 1s. Whoa, that's a good frag grenade.
4 wounds. I'll allocate, so there's 2 models from that point of view who aren't in cover. That's this one here and this one here. I'm going to allocate to them first. So 4+, failed, so that will kill the one on top of the box. 4+, succeeded. This is on the other one. Succeeded, succeeded. So that model goes down so far.
And we'll do the 3 heavy bolt pistols, hitting on 3s. Oof. Nope.
They all missed.
Plasma pistol, hits. Wounds on a 3. It does not. Well, we're rolling 1s because Lieutenant still doesn't wound.
So only one will die. Does it come back on a 5? Re-rolling 1s for being warriors? No, it doesn't.
And now we're on to the charge phase. I'll do the assault intercessors first. They're just going to charge these warriors in the middle. Oh, 5 is enough to get them in. They'll finish their charge with that. So Sarge will actually go onto the box so you can fight across, and then the other guys will come around. Then the aggressors will charge, and we're going to do something very risky, and we're going to charge this unit of warriors and the overlord. 6 is enough to get them somewhat in range. So the aggressors will charge into that gap there to get engaged with the overlord as well. And then in the fight phase I will pick the aggressors to go first. So the aggressors are going to pile in a little bit just to make sure that they're all within half an inch of half an inch. And I think this aggressor on the end is within 6 of the lieutenants still. Just about. And then they're going to attack, put all their attacks on the overlord. So they have 10 attacks hitting on 4s. Not so good. 3 hits. Wounding on 3s, you're rolling 1s. Ugh, that's not what I want. 1 wound.
4 plus invulnerable save. Failed. It's down to 3 wounds.
And then the assault intercessors get to go next because they charged. They'll pile in, mostly towards the box rather than the Necrons, incidentally, so they will contest the objective. 16 melee attacks, hitting on 3s. Yeah, there's only 9 hits. Wounding on 4s, you're only 1s. 5 wounds.
5 plus saves. I don't know if we said it specifically, but light cover does not apply against melee attacks. Made 2, so 3 hit. I'll take away these ones. This one. 3 reanimation rolls on 5s, re-rolling 1s. 2 come back. And they'll come back actually quite close to where they were before to try and keep the objective under my control. But then the intercessor gets to consolidate.
So we'll just go around again just to get closer.
Now I get to fight back. We'll do the warriors first. They will all fight the assault intercessors, apart from this one at the back, who has to fight the aggressors, I think. 4 attacks on the assault intercessors, hitting on 3s, only 1. Wounds on the 4, does not. And 1 attack on an aggressor, hits on 3, it missed. And then the overlord will fight back, and he has to attack the aggressors. He has 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, because his weapon gives him -1 to hit. They all hit. Wounding on 2s, strength 10. 4 wounds, maybe -4/3 damage.
Blech.
So that wipes out the aggressors in their entirety. And the overlord will consolidate a bit, getting closer to that assault intercessor, but not within an inch of him, but that does bring him within 3 inches of the objective, horizontally, and 5 inches vertically, obviously. Then in the morale phase, I did actually lose 5 Necron Warriors this turn, so they do have to make a morale test. Leadership 10, so if I roll a 6, another one runs away. No, 5 is just about alright. It being the Space Marines' turn, they control 1 objective, because the one in the middle has more Necrons on it than the Space Marines. The Lieutenant can count towards one or the other, but even if he counts towards the middle one, that's still not enough Space Marines on it. So the score is 4-3 as we go into Necron's turn 2. In my command phase, the Necron Overlord regains a wound, and he will use his Resurrection Orb on the injured Necron Warriors, allowing them all to attempt to reanimate. So we've got 5 missing, coming back on 5s, re-rolling 1s. Re-roll the 2 1s. Getting 3 back. I'll bring them back over here, and then the Necron Overlord will also use My Will Be Done on the other squad of warriors who aren't engaged in melee at the moment. Then for my movement, the squad who was engaged in melee have fallen back, staying 3 inches away from the Lieutenant, so he can't heroically intervene in my charge phase. The other squad have moved round the black box a little bit so that they can all see an Assault Intercessor, and the Overlord has gone round the other side of the Assault Intercessors. And then we're on to shooting, where the squad of Necrons who can shoot will all shoot at the Assault Intercessors. Do the 10 shots from Gauss Reapers first, hitting on the 2s because of My Will Be Done. We've got 2 misses. Wounding on 3s, 7 wounds. The wounded man is not in cover from the point of view of any of these Necrons, so he has to take the hit first.
Yeah, so wounded man on 5, he's dead. Then I'll do the other guy out in the open. He's dead. And the guys who are in cover, the guys at the back, not the sergeant, falls. Failed 1. 2 dead. Guy at the back takes a wound.
And Gauss Flayers, everyone but the sergeant is in cover from these. 5 misses, only 5 hits. 4s to wound. 4, they'd be -1, but they're in cover, which negates that effectively.
4 3+ saves. Failed 1, so wounded guy dies. I suppose technically I should have rolled 3 dice, or done them one at a time, but it didn't matter in the end.
And then we're on to the charge phase. The Overlord will just charge into the Assault Intercessors only. You only need to short roll, 5 is plenty. He'll just go there, and then he will swing at the Assault Intercessors. 4 attacks hitting on 3s. 1 hit. It wounds on a 2, right, that kills 1.
Oh, man dies.
Not much point consolidating.
Sarge gets to hit back. 4 attacks hitting on 3s. 2 hits. 5s you're on 1s. He got a wound.
4 plus save. And he made it. And in the morale phase, the Assault Intercessors lost all 4 apart from the Sergeant.
So on a 5 or a 6, the Sarge runs away. He does not.
And because of the number of warriors on the middle objective, the Necrons gain 3 victory points again, going up to 6.
Yeah, and at that point I'm going to concede, because I only have 2 models left, and that's the number of Necrons I've managed to kill over the course of the game. The Sergeant and the Lieutenant just aren't going to kill all those warriors, and I can hold at most 2 objectives.
Yeah, that's it. Even if you kill a load of warriors, there's still far too many of them. I can keep racking up the 3 victory points a turn, so it's definitely going to be a Necron victory on the final victory point count, if we were to carry on. So we will recap the game for you now. Well, that was the game for issue 28 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine. How do you think that went?
Didn't play it well. I think my strategy was sound, charging the aggressors in, hopefully kill the Overlord, and then I would have consolidated in so I'd engage all the warriors. Because once I get into, I'm pretty confident I can beat you in melee. And then without the Overlord, you haven't got the Resurrection Orb, and then I'd slowly be able to whittle down all the warriors. And over the course of the game, I'd be able to control the objectives more than you. Fortunately, the dice didn't go that way. Unfortunately, the one hero aggressor did all the work, and the other guy and the Sergeant were just there for decoration, apparently, unfortunately.
Yeah, he did so well tanking all those shots in the first turn, and then they collectively they completely whiffed their attacks against the Overlord.
It was going well against. Your shooting was very poor in the first round, and it is entirely possible for the 3 aggressors to kill the Overlord.
And likewise, if the Overlord had rolled like he did his second round of combat against the aggressors, then only one of them would have been dead and not all 3.
Yeah, once the aggressors were down, I think that was what sealed the deal. There's just so many warriors that 10 warriors is more models than I actually have, so if you got all of them on an objective, I can't possibly take it without killing them. And considering how many did you get back? 5 or 6?
Yeah, you killed 5, but you didn't. You killed a lot more than 5. They're just at least 3 of them stood up again.
And kind of the issue is that, again, none of my units are ideal for holding objectives. When I had the Lieutenant, would rather have him in combat as well, but I need him to hold. It's not like Age of Sigmar where you can just leave an objective once you take it. You do need to stick around to hold them.
It would help to roll a 6 to advance, I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to say, to be fair, if you hadn't rolled that big advance roll, I think it would have gone quite a bit different. I think if you hadn't gone that advance roll and just moved up normally, I probably would have just hid behind the box for another turn, because I would have held that objective.
But that's true, yeah. If you'd taken 2 objectives and I'd only taken the one immediately in my deployment zone, you could have pinned me back and I wouldn't have been able to get near the middle objective. Of course, you still have to leave somebody behind to hold the back objective if you wanted to do that. But then again, I suppose you could take an early lead in victory points and then abandon your home objective and push from...
Well, I mean, I basically just tried to wipe you out or cripple you enough that you can't possibly take, and I can fall back any remaining forces to hold objectives. Yeah. Also, nice to have more warriors. I think we said they were a key part of the Necron army.
Yeah, and it does go to show that a solid core of warriors can be pretty effective, especially when you have a support character like the Necron Overlord. I think this game did show actually the full range of what the Overlord does for his army, because yes, he killed 3 aggressors, but I would argue he had a greater impact in bringing back warriors with Resurrection Orb, increasing their movement, which let me get a lot of models on the objective in the first turn, and My Will Be Done giving a whole unit +1 to hit is very good. I did deliberately divide them into the squads as given by the magazine here, so having 5 of each gun in each. The main reason for that was because the Gauss Flayers just aren't so effective against Space Marines, and so it was useful to have some people who die off first and be less effective. The alternative would have been to have a whole squad with Gauss Flayers and a whole with Reapers. That can be handy if you want a squad with the Reapers who can advance further forward and use their close range guns to effect while the other one covers them from a distance, but because of the symmetrical nature of the board and the scenario, I thought it might actually be more useful to have 2 identical squads.
Yeah, also the size. I mean, if the board was bigger, you might have 1 unit, 10 of each, so you can have the Flayer squad at the back, and then the other squad can move up with the Overlord. But the objectives are so close to each other as well, that doesn't really matter in this case.
So I might do that going forward in scenarios. It doesn't look like they're telling us what guns to give each squad. So.
I mean, as per the data sheet, you can mix and match however much you want.
Exactly.
So we think if you are subscribed, assuming you get deliveries 4 issues at a time, so I think they did the first 2 together and then 4 at a time for each month afterwards, they would line up that you would have 27 to 30, so you would have the models to play this. If you're getting it from the newsagent like we are, you would have had to wait a week. I mean, it's not the end of the world to have to wait a week.
And the alternative, if we'd started messing around with the forces, we'd then have to worry about which unit to swap things out with and all this kind of thing. It was just easier to do it as they wrote it. And then the rules for cover definitely came up. They kept that aggressor alive when he kept rolling his saves, because he definitely rolled some 4s there, which would have been failures without the cover. Yeah, I mean, talking about cover, first of all...
It's real handy.
It's very useful. This was a slightly strange board in having the boxes as they are. I think more normally you would expect to get cover from area terrain like ruined buildings and things like that, or barricades like pipes and walls and things. Unfortunately, the rules for obstacles and the way that the cover is determined with the drawing lines between bases of models does mean you get weird situations like we had where one model was in cover from some of the shooting but not all of it, so you kind of have to do it separately or use different coloured dice. It does make things a bit tedious. Later in the game we didn't really show it, but we just sort of assumed that they put hits on people in cover without worrying about who was actually shooting at the time, because it's just quicker and it doesn't erode your sanity quite so badly.
Yeah, I guess if you're in a tournament situation you'd have to do it like that, but in a casual game you don't need to go...
Yeah, we wanted to do it this way just to show it off, but in future we'll probably be a bit less precise about it.
Pernickety about it.
Exactly. And terrain in general, there are a lot of rules, as you saw, for different pieces of terrain, and we'll have more terrain going forward, and as I said, we'll talk about the rules for each individual piece as it comes up, rather than just waste your time going through it all now. It is helpful that they all have their own rules that are defined in a central location.
And it's kind of handy having them all on 2 pages, so you can just refer to that rather than trying to memorise it all.
And it helps if you're using your own terrain that you've made yourself, or you're not sure what rules to give it, you can just pick some that seem suitable. And it's nice to have rules to give it the effect you'd expect it to have on the battlefield.
It's certainly useful for melee armies as well, because there were plenty of games early on where poor cylinder sisters just have to banzai the Necrons. Also, terrain just makes the battlefield look more realistic and interesting.
But anyway, I think that's it for this video, so if you enjoyed this content then please leave a like and subscribe. Let us know how you got on, what do you think about the terrain rules, that sort of thing. If you tried this scenario, what did you decide to do about the mistaken forces? We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye for now.